should probably move.
Okay, good evening. It's my pleasure to welcome you to Art Center East's writing project featuring our own Ryan Scariano tonight. Forgive me if I'm a little distracted. This is the first time we've used a waiting room and I may need to pause and admit people as we go. So just so you know the format tonight, we'll have, I'll do a little bit of introduction, we'll have Ryan read, and then we'll have an open mic at the end. I have 4 people on the list right now. If there are others who would like to be on the list to read after Ryan's reading tonight, just let me know in the chat. That's probably the best way to do it. Okay. Let's see, I want to do just a couple things as I'm getting set up here. One is to, I'll put in the chat a link to the Art Center East's donate page. So, whoops, let me get that to everyone. So if you would like to provide some financial remuneration for tonight's lovely reading, that link is there. Yes, Lindsay, I did get Carl on the list. The other link that I'm going to put into the chat again for people who arrived perhaps after I did it the first time is the link to Ryan's new book, Not Your Happy Dance, which is from Finishing Line Press. So if you feel the desire to own some of the things you're hearing tonight, you can do that at that website. My name is Nancy Knowles. I think I said that already. I'm the president of the Art Center East Board. And I'm so glad that everyone's here for this reading tonight. Really, really proud of my colleague Ryan and the work that he's been doing. I want to give you just a little bit of an introduction to his work. And you may know already that Ryan works with me at Eastern Oregon University. Ryan is the tutor coordinator there and also an instructor of in the first year experience program, and students just love him. He also has an MFA from Eastern Washington University and Not Your Happy Dance from Finishing Line Press is the second chapbook. He has another chapbook called Smithereens from Imperfect Press. And I just want to say, as a colleague and a friend and a fellow writer, Ryan is a talented poet. I love his sense of humor that comes across in the writing that he does. And I'm particularly fond at the kind of view of the world that his poems deliver. And every time they're just kind of a spectacular little lens onto reality. So I hope that you'll be as delighted by his poetry as I am. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Ryan. Yay, applause.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Thank you for making this happen. I mean, I want to thank Art Center East for hosting this event, but I appreciate all that you do to make this happen, and Amelia also. And thanks to everyone for making time tonight to be here and letting me share some of my work with you. It means everything to me. And thank you to everyone who pre-ordered the book. That's a huge thing as well. So I thank you for that. This is the book right here. Let me see if I can get it in there. Not Your Happy Dance. And like Nancy said, Finishing Line Press. It's got some kick-ass blurbs on the back from Paul Ann Peterson and Emily Kendall Fry and Henrietta Goodman. And you know, I was thinking I really need to publish another book just so I can get these amazing poets to say more nice things about me. Like that might become my primary motivation. I don't know. But yeah, thank you so much for everybody that was able to make it here tonight. I see old friends and newer friends, and it makes me very happy to be able to share some of my work with you. So thank you. Yeah, shall we? I'm going to start with some poems from the first section of the book, which is titled Hum. Letting the evening come. Like dad out of work, like the backyard, like the old German lady who lived in the bramble, like a possum or a stray, like spare change, like a paper route, like high school, like a car and a party, like a reliable connection, like the smoky windows and creamy leather interior of a Cadillac, like a dark road, like losing the bullet, like beating a rap, like winning a bet, like filet and lobster tail, like taking French leave, French wine, French kiss, like a renaissance, like you always knew the way home, like the belly of a beautiful woman, like a cat, like bone china, like a cup of tea, like walking along the sound, like sea glass and tumbled stones, like returning to the hummingbird and a wet garden, like clover, like a pear tree, like a blanket and a rainbow, like letting the evening come, like the moment and its spell of stillness under which we fall. I lived in Spokane for a few years before moving to the La Grande area, and I was constantly heading for points west. I was constantly making the trip back and forth from Spokane to Western Washington and Western Oregon, where my family and friends were and are, and whenever you have to travel from Spokane to say Portland, you're pretty much, unless you take some really scenic routes, you pretty much always have to drive on Highway 395, which connects I-90 at Ritzville to I-82 down in the Tri-Cities, right? Which in I-82 takes you into Oregon. And there's on that stretch of Highway 395 in between Ritzville and Tri-Cities, there's an intersection where Muse Road enters the highway. And I must have driven past that place 100 times, right? Literally 100 times probably. And one time I got this poem. It's Late Night 395 South. Like never before and never again, Muse Road snuck up out of the fog and kissed me. Pickling song. She's washing mason jars, cutting dill, scrubbing cucumbers, bringing the brine to a boil. It's a process, a short season's worth of salt, a sea of apple cider vinegar. She's hearing the song. I peel the garlic from her mother's garden. Fat, earth-encrusted bulbs cling to thick, fibrous necks. The largest cloves slip from their papery skins, polished white jade wet with green light. She's puzzled the cucumbers into their shells, and now in flows her brine. I twist on the lids, flip the jars, and line them up along the edge of the great countertop. The hum of an ancient mantra presses through the half smile of her lips. I've almost made out the melody. This next poem is called Marmot Road, and my friends Nate and Brooke live out in the Corbett area, in between Corbett and Sandy. And one afternoon, my other friend Aaron and I were heading out there to spend the evening with them. And typically we would go through Gresham and then out the Columbia Scenic River Highway to get to their place. But there'd been a landslide, and so we couldn't go that way. And we went up through Sandy and cut in that way, and we got lost. And it was a beautiful day. It was a fantastic day to get lost. The sun was shining. It was a nice drive, and we eventually made it to Nate's house, and we had a fun evening. And later on, when I got home, I was just looking at the area where we were at, and we had been on Marmot Road, and I learned that there was an unincorporated community out there named Marmot, and it had been named Marmot back in the in like the 1880s or something like that, because the locals had mistakenly identified animal burrows in the area as belonging to marmots. But in fact, there are no marmots in that area. It's not the right terrain, and those the animal burrows that they misidentified actually belong to the mountain beaver, and the mountain beaver is a living fossil. It has no existing relatives, right? No animal relatives, and they are only found in the Cascades, the parts of the Sierras, and the Coast Range. So yeah, Aaron didn't stay in this poem. I had to do this little journey by myself, but this is called Marmot Road. Trying to get to Nate's place, I turned on Marmot Road when I should have stayed on 10 Ike to Bull Run. I wound through the forest, broke in by wet pasture and Holsteins, past a barn leaning against a hand-lettered sign for eggs. Though I knew I was lost, I hummed along the devil's backbone, with the big river on one side and the little river on the other. My ears popped. The moss and lichen flashed like sunshine in my eyes. Was I driving toward the original Marmot, still dreaming in his burrow by a secret clear lake? But there never have been marmots in these parts. Night fell, and I broke down by the muddy roadside creek. Yet as the moon clouded, the sad trickle off the mountain eased through a culvert and pooled in a brownish black puddle amid cedar and hemlock. My dark earth was ripe with the fertile scents. Here, the primordial mountain beaver found me. Unexpectedly, I prayed to her for 10 million years as she counted her stars and ate fiddleheads. Thank you. Certainly.
Brian, you're wonderful.
Oh, thank you, Pat. I love you, Pat. Certainly. Something shiny catches my eye as I cross the street to the car. A scuffed little disco ball bead. I toss it into the ashtray next to the tooth-sized piece of quartz, the starry green shard of sea glass, the paper clip, and 2 new pennies. Certainly, I am becoming a crow. Let's see, for this poem, you need to be familiar with the antiquated medical procedure known as trepanning. Trepanning. That's where they drill a hole into your skull to, I don't know, release pressure, release vapors, that sort of thing. And I actually read, this is probably like 15 years ago, but I actually read that the process, the procedure was becoming fashionable again for what in some circles, for whatever that's worth. This is called the old country. When they trepanned me, I saw blue, green, yellow, and violet over the gray hill, past the river of history beating, enormous and copper. Folk from the bloody town fill their pockets with pennies. No one returns. The old country is where they go, if you believe the postcards, which say that even though the old country is bloody just like our town, and the ash of revolution clouds every fiery sunset, still you can hear a song in each cold kernel of glass, a bloody song with a bloody chorus. So why do the townspeople descend into the copper mine? Why are their postcards so jubilant? I have pennies in a pickle jar. They belong to my grandmother. Her thoughts are rusting through my eyes, the ochre in my lungs, the lacquer on my bones. The people in my town and those who left are humming. I taste iron and clay mud, I smell roses and rotting wood. Thank you. My warmest coat. She knocked on my door one winter night in the middle of last summer, placed a call, powdered her button nose, used my convenience, and when I left the parlor to still and quiet the kettle, she stole my only goat, let him off at the end of my favorite rope. My favorite rope. She eloped into the cold oak forest, and all I could hope was that she'd also stolen my warmest coat. Dear Jonah, it's been eons since we last saw each other. I hope your weather's fair and that you're coming up for air every once in a while. I'm well enough, or at least I shouldn't complain. Although beyond your presence, it seems I'm just going through the motions, feeling perfectly uninhabited. When I finally realized how much of our whole mess was my fault, my life became a held breath, ash and hollow prayers. In retrospect, it's obvious I had no control over my actions. How little control we ever have over anything. I starve for the time we shared. I miss the scent of you, the taste. And I still stand by my claim that God made you for me. You should be living your life much closer to my heart. Letting you get away was a blunder of biblical proportions. I truly hope you're happy. I also hope my dropping this line into the depths of the past doesn't upset you. But I'm compelled to make contact, to tell you that you've never left my thoughts. I wish you the best. I don't know why it's been so hard and taken me so long to say those words. Anyway, please be careful with yourself, and please let me know how the big salty blue is treating you. Yours forever. Okay, so the next section is titled Black, and I'm gonna read some poems for that, and then I think I'll have enough time to just read maybe a couple or three newer poems at the end, poems that aren't in the book. So that's my plan. But yeah, the second section in the book is called Black, and this first poem begins with an epigraph from Ursula Le Guin, and she says, "I keep looking for dragons in this country and not finding any." The dragon in the room. First, eat the damned elephant taking up too much space. Eat the windows and the walls, the sundry items in the closets and the cupboards. Eat the computers and the phones, eat the houseplants and the gardens, eat the chickens, eat the pets, eat the hummingbirds and the butterflies, eat the poor, the cold, the huddled, the hungry, especially eat the hungry. You're hungry, you're cold and tired, you're huddled all by yourself. Eat the rust on your belly, eat the mold and grime webbing your claws, eat the raw data oozing from your pores, eat the invoices and the taxes, eat the tithes paid in kind, eat the churches and the truck stops, the airports and the junkyards, eat the billboards, eat the casinos, eat the prayers and the spells and the songs, eat the receipts. Let everything else burn. This next poem is called Northern Flickr, and Northern Flickr is it's a bird in the woodpecker family, and they're very common in neighborhoods and stuff. I never noticed one until I started paying attention to birds, but they're spectacular. They're a big bird with with bright orange, like neon orange or yellow or red markings. And yeah, they're pretty impressive. This is called Northern Flickr. The snow whispers a lesson in letting go. The leaves are shouting from brown and gold to green and greener. They fall clear up into the sky. The flicker flares so brightly I can hear in my dark the flame he carries under wing, diving from pine to ash. I drink myself dumb on the back porch, wait all evening for the spark to leap from that damned flicker. When it does, it lands in my cocktail, hissing against the ice, just as you call to say you wish I had driven over. Temptation speeds across the state, slams head on into my slur. Now hear me search for and curse the landmarks in my dark. Listen to the radio signal break apart. I'm roaring off into a midnight blackout. This one goes out to Chico, to Chico. Pawing the door. She turned on the light in her heart, then sent me back into the dark. I drove in circles, corkscrewing into winter. There are as many animals here as in the dreams of a child. Barn owl, coyote, mule deer, mouse, raccoon, cold cat under the porch. They see one another in this moonless night, moving through the trees and around the edges of the yard. Yet up the icy steps, I scramble and hope. Her heart glows. I find a place once again with my brother, the dog. Ours is to bark and yowl, paw the door, knowing there is warmth within. So I moved to the area in 2016, and I couldn't find an apartment or a house in La Grande, and I ended up renting a place out in Cove, which is about 13 miles outside of town. It's a little community where Sarah and Ethan live. A little community of about 350 people, I think, right? And that winter apparently was one of the worst winters in recent memory, and it was a bad winter. I know that. And I was coming from Spokane, and I was unprepared for living out there during that particular winter. The drifting snow. I mean, all the highways were shut down, but even the local roads were shut down with drifts that were like multiple stories high. It was intense, and so I was out at my little place in Cove. All the roads were shut down. There were feet of snow outside. It was 10 degrees below zero. And I'm in the house, and I start hearing the chirping of frogs. Like, it was the most surreal thing I could have experienced at that moment in time. A dark winter night, and I hear frogs chirping. And so I spent some time on the internet, listening to different frogs and stuff, and trying to figure out what I was hearing. And I came to the conclusion that it was tree frogs, and there must have been some water leaking under the house and some warmth, and it was a sanctuary for these frogs. And I heard them off and on that whole winter. They were there. So it was just bizarre. It took me a while to wrap my head around it. So this is the worst winter since 1989. For the past 3 days, white wind and heavy drifts have closed the road, besieged by 10 below. But there's enough to eat, and the power has held. Then a strange miracle rises from beneath this rented house, from beneath winter, the green sound of tree frogs. I work into the night, deciphering the offer, an invitation for escape down to their abode, to clamber amid the rotting foundation, to sit in their muddy rooms, anoint myself at their mystical font, take communion of spider, beetle, moth, to be for a moment born again. Here's another poem about an animal that is always in close proximity to us. This is called Rat, Rattus norvegicus. On his coat of arms, the wormy apple and barn cat, his robes of night so royal, the purple's black, herald of science, prophet of medicine, in the corner of my eye, he sees his reflection. At arm's length, he's kept me his cousin. My cousin always building his nest within the pink sound of my voice, my heavy sleep, a crumb-like gift, a winter dream in the pantry, the only song I have for sharing this warmth in the walls. And then the other thing I would say about living in Cove for a year before I got this little place in LeGrand is that the drive, like if conditions were perfect, right? I mean absolutely perfect, then the drive was spectacular. I think I've used that word twice now tonight. It was a incredible drive when the weather was perfect. You could see the mountains. It's just beautiful, and it was like I said, about 13 miles one way, so you had time to think and write poems, maybe that sort of thing. But if the weather was at all bad, or if there were deer jumping out in front of the car and stuff, then it was not a fun drive. Yeah. So this is called The First Warm Day Since She Left. This morning I see in wavering degrees the green, yellow, and brown that stitches the breeze to hayfield. I see rush grass married to wire fences, drunken lean, and the wounded heart on blackbird's sleeve. I see scarecrow proposing to farmhouse and tractor pining for dinosaur. I see the tumbleweed beards of the oncoming men in their trucks. I see the mountains behind the mountains. And then I'm gonna read the last poem in this book, and then like I said, I got three newer poems I'm gonna try out on y'all. But this is the last poem in the book. It's called Still the Wave. There's still a wave from the old men in their new trucks, still the eye-level fence post hawks, still the lonely elk, still the field where I always hear but never see the meadowlark, still my passing by the creosote-colored mare on the sunny side of the barn. From the look in her eye, I think she knows she grazes on my miles. When she nuzzles my thoughts, rain and earth mix into muddy milk. I drink it in and drive farther down the road. Not your happy dance. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, right. Yeah. So I'm gonna finish up with three more short poems that are new. They're not in the book. This is stuff I've been working on more recently. This first poem is a pantoum, which is a French form originally taken from the Malay, right? It's a Malay poetic form. Yeah, and what do you need to know about this? It's got an A-B rhyme pattern, and the lines cycle through the poem, and then it ends with the lines each rotate through the stanzas, and then it ends with the lines basically that it started with, and you'll get the feel for that when I read it. But I would say that I have found this form lately to be very attractive and accessible. And I think it's because I don't know, the repetitive form seems to rhyme with kind of the rhythm of pandemic life or something. You know, I think it's something that I'm able to get into, and I think it has something to do, yeah, with kind of the repetitive nature of kind of how our lives have been lately. Anyways, this is called At Times a Blessing. I'm good at developing habits, at times a blessing, but mostly it's a curse. My anxiety grows like a shopping list, then spills like change from a purse. At times a blessing, but mostly it's a curse. Fantasy turns nightmare, the dream sours, then spills like change from a purse, bought seconds and wasted hours. Fantasy turned nightmare, the dream soured. What have I made and what have I saved? Bought seconds and wasted hours. Life's gravelly moments, a road now paved. What have I made and what have I saved? My anxiety grows like a shopping list. Life's gravelly moments, a road now paved. I'm good at developing habits. And I have another frog poem, believe it or not. And it's not the same frogs that I lived with for a year. These are entirely different frogs, I swear. Yeah. The frogs. For a moment, the frogs swim near the surface, and I'm gazing down at them, reaching with my eyes and ears and thoughts toward their waiting. They're interested, willing to give. I listen and want to replicate what they offer in these sheer seconds. To get it right, I must also bring to bear the memory of dawn gasping 365 million years ago. I'm not yet able to do this, but I'm getting closer. I've begun to sense the bird, how there's only one, how it's tethered to this earth. It's both sides of my breath. And the last poem I'm going to read for you all is called Oh Beautiful Asteroid. After another shooting, my 5-year-old nephew told me if somebody is lying, it's impossible for them to say rabbit 3 times in a row without laughing. This never fails, I asked. No, it doesn't, he assured me. I said, prove it, say rabbit 3 times, which he did with the straightest face I'd ever seen. It never fails. Like how it rains right after you wash the car, or how your next bowel movement after scrubbing the toilet bowl makes a mess, or how full moons amplify the crazy, or Murphy's Law, or Xanax bars and Irish whiskey, or blackout, or only knowing a semblance of balance. I smoke weed and wonder what Jesus would do, or what Walt Whitman would do, or what Bob Marley would do, or what Frida Kahlo would do, or what my mom would do, or what I should do. I climb the basement steps with the spiders webbed into their corners and imagine this is like the way an asteroid hurtles past Earth. The spider's regard for me is like my regard for an asteroid. Oh, beautiful asteroid, today I'm again walking past the news, past the only parents I'll ever know. The spiders are ignorant or apathetic or spiteful. Rabbit, rabbit, rabbit. Thank you. Thank you so much. That felt really good. Thank you. I love you guys.
Brian. That was fabulous. Please feel free to unmute and applaud, congratulate.
Reading somebody else.
Happy to
You're
see all of you.
wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Good to see you, Ryan. Good reading.
Love you, Ryan.
I love you too, MK.
Thank
Your
you.
book, your book is absolutely wonderful.
Thank you, Pat.
I love you more than MK does.
Oh, I know you do, Patty. I know. Don't worry. I know.
Well,
I really enjoyed that.
Thank you. Felt good. Thank you for spending your time with me. I really do appreciate that. It means everything to me.
I think my book might have been delivered to my neighbor and I need to go get it.
Oh.
What did Pauline, what did you say?
Oh, I said thank you for a wonderful reading.
Yes.
Really wonderful.
Yes.
Thanks, Patty.
I wanted to, yes. Oh, it was a wonderful, you read beautifully, Ryan.
You do. You do. And very naturally.
Yes.
It's
I'm blushing.
That's wonderful.
I remember when you were afraid to read
No, never.
about that.
Never.
Yes, you
No.
were.
Never. I don't remember that.
I have to say,
I'm sure it's true. I'm sure it's true, but I don't remember.
MK and I are monopolizing a conversation, but Ryan and I were in an early class with Dave Jarecki, and Ryan wrote a poem that made me realize, I don't know how to say this. You can write a poem about anything. I remember thinking, you can write a poem about that? It was earth-shattering for me, and it changed the way I look at poetry, and I am a huge fan.
Thank you,
There's
Patty.
so much a part of you. It's just this wonderful.
Does anybody have questions for Ryan? Now's the time to put him on the spot.
When are you coming to Portland, Ryan? When are you going to visit?
I will be there next week for a couple of days, actually. That's my plan right now. Yeah. And then over the summer and stuff.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
But you guys are off too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, our
Next week.
term's just wrapping up at Blue Mountain.
Okay.
I really do want to thank everybody for being here. It really means a lot to me. I love looking. I was just like reading the poems, and a couple of them I have memorized, and I was just like looking at everybody, just
Looks like
inspecting you.
Who's looking at you, kid?
It looks like Amelia's politely raising her hand.
Oh.
I have a question. What new projects do you have in the works?
Thank you for the question. I have a couple of manuscripts I've been sending around trying to get published. One is with Henrietta, who I see is here tonight, and it's one that we wrapped up a couple of years ago, and it's a collaboration of acrostic animal poems, and we each wrote an alphabet of acrostic poems, and I just think it's a fantastic collaborative project, and I don't know why I can't find anybody to publish it yet, because you know, Henrietta is remarkable, and like half of the poems she wrote have been published in like reputable journals and stuff, so I have a feeling I might be holding us back, but so that's one. And then I've I talked about the Pantoum form that I've been fascinated with for the last 3 or 4 months, but before that it's the acrostics, and acrostics are this super basic form, right? I mean, if you guys are familiar with acrostics, it's from like kindergarten or Sunday school, where you like write a poem for Mother's Day and you spell out mom down the side of the page, and then write a line that begins with M, and a line that begins with O, and a line that begins with M, and that's your poem for mom on Mother's Day. And that's the simplest version. There are other acrostics where the words are spelled out in the middle of the lines or at the end of the lines or in multiple places, but that simple childish version, if you will, has been around for forever. And I think it was Henrietta that said this, so I'm just taking it from her, but that the oracle at Delphi was gave out its magic, its omens or whatever, via acrostics. So I'm fascinated with that form. I'm fascinated by things that seem childish or seem simple, and then have a little bit of something else to them. And I also like the form that it's easy, it's accessible for me, and it feels somehow like I don't have to invent everything. I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but like the restrictions of the form actually make writing the poem a little bit easier or different. Like I'm not the only one. It's not just up to me. The form is contributing in a way, and I think that's awesome, and I love it. So I have this other short manuscript of acrostic poems that is based off of Goethe's theory of colors, and that was, I'm going to get the timeline wrong. It was about the same time. I'm going to expose myself for not knowing, but it was about the same time as Newton's theory of colors, which is the one that's been accepted as scientific in the Western world. But Goethe's is more like maybe a philosophy of colors, right?
Wow.
And it's super neat. And so I wrote a bunch of color acrostics that were kind of they're persona poems. They're persona poems based off of the primary and secondary colors, and then also black, brown, and white. So that's a sequence of 9 poems. And then I wrote I have another sequence of drug-inspired acrostics that I've intertwined, right? So they kind of match up with the color acrostics, right? Like cocaine and white go together, and black and heroin go together, and green, and you get the idea. I like that a lot. That's my new baby. So I've been sending that out to every it's a chapbook manuscript, and I've been sending that out to every place, probably some places twice even at this point. But no, that's not true. But yeah, so that's what I've been working on.
I want to
Thank
see them all.
There's a few of them have been published. Soft Blow is an online journal that is featuring, I think, four of them this month. So I sent it out in one of the email messages, but yeah.
Are there other questions for Ryan?
Well, can I just thank everybody one more time for being here? It really does. I can't overstate how much it means to me to get a group of you together. All of you are folks who I know a little bit, and it means a lot to me that you are willing to spend your evening letting me share my poetry with you. I can't tell you how much it means to me. So thank you so much.
Thanks for the check, Ryan.
Yeah.
Well, we want to applaud this. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I just put a link to Soft Blow in the chat, so if you want to go retrieve some Ryan poems, that's a place to go.
There we go. Yeah, the ones that he said he uses.
Okay, so thank you, Ryan, so much for being with us tonight. I'm really excited about your book. I think it's fabulous. I wanted to hear the poem Brown, I think was my favorite out of all of the ones in this poem, in this collection. So anyway, so some other time, I hope you'll read that aloud so we can hear it.
Thank you.
So we're going to transition now. I'm going to turn off the recording. We'll transition now to our open mic session, and let's just take about maybe 5 minutes. So get a sweater, refill your beverage, get your poems. I have 5 people on the list who want to read. If there's anybody else, please let me know in the chat.